Alright.
Okay, so sex, gardening. Who wrote gardening?
Connor.
You really know somebody who's addicted to gardening? Really? Is it like an obsession?
Well, it's kind of like a way to. It started off as a way to cope from he had an
Something
addiction
else
to
to
drugs,
replace something?
and so he started gardening, and now he's addicted to that.
Now that you explain it, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Ty.
like my sister, if she doesn't go running one day, then she gets
It's like a replacement addiction.
I think drugs would be nice.
Yeah. That's one thing I was going to say. Nobody wrote it up there, but I was going to say exercise. People are definitely addicted to exercise.
I wrote sports.
Shh. I can hear all sorts of like muttering, so shh. Okay. Pornography, that's a huge one. I'll tell you a couple stats when we start talking about addiction in just a minute about pornography. Hurting themselves. So, funny story, I was at the doctor a week or so ago, and I come out of the doctor's office, whatever, and I'm out in the waiting room, and this girl's sitting there, and she's like, "Are you going to Orem?" I'm like, "No, I live in Pleasant Grove." She's like, "Well, can you drive me to Orem?" I'm like, "Sure." So I drive her in the car, and she's like, "So are you pregnant?" I'm like,
Wait, how old
"No."
is she?
I think she's in her 20s. And I'm like, "No. Are you pregnant?" She's like, "Yeah." And she was homeless, by the way. She was just living with somebody. But she had all these cut marks on her arm. And so we started talking about it, and that was one thing she said. She's like, "I just got addicted to like cutting myself just over and over and over and over." And it was the way of how she dealt with the pain she'd gone through in her life. And she was homeless, but yet I was driving her home. I know you're thinking that. But she said that she was on a bus in Salt Lake, and that she was back on her way to the homeless shelter, and some lady was like, "Well, you can live with me for a week or whatever," to try to help her out. Anyway, but that was just my story about hurting themselves. Okay, so sports. Yeah, I can see people addicted to sports. Not only playing sports, but also watching sports. Yeah? Anyone know that person that has to constantly, go ahead, yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead. Constantly, the second they get home, ESPN has to be on, and they have to be watching those wrap-up shows or whatever, I don't know. Okay, yes, okay. Kate just wrote one that I was going to bring up that no one wrote. Facebook. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you think you know somebody who you truly believe is addicted to Facebook.
Myself.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm on it right now. Sorry.
Okay, Oxycontin or pain pills, that's a huge one. I work at a pharmacy, and we have people come in all the time, shaking, eating their stuff, freaking out, yelling, screaming, swearing. Okay, texting, or just to your phone in general. Yeah, how many times a day do you guys do this? Just gotta make sure.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure, right? Yeah? Okay. Who's Dave Ramsey? Oh, he's a guy on the radio.
A money help guy.
He's like a financial.
Yeah, he has a program called Financial Peace, and it helps people get out of debt. My dad's obsessed with him.
Really?
If there was a Dave Ramsey religion, he would join it.
Really?
He would, on our way to Disneyland, those 12 hours, we listened to Dave Ramsey CDs.
Horrible.
All the way up. I have it memorized.
Okay. Soda, Diet Coke, Mountain Dew. Oh, I just heard a weird noise. I thought somebody's focusing. Anyway, alcohol, definitely. I have a sister-in-law that her mom still is, unfortunately, an alcoholic. And she is the oldest of 5 kids. So 4 little brothers and sisters. One brother, the rest are sisters. But anyway. And she remembers coming home one day. She was in junior high. And her mom had been an alcoholic her whole life, and her parents were divorced. And she has told me the story that she remembers coming home and walking into their house, and the house was empty, and all their stuff was packed and stuff. And she was like, "What's going on?" And her mom's like, "Just get in the car, just get in the car." And they drove to the elementary school and checked out her little brothers and sisters. And the mom drove them to her dad's house and said, "Get out," unpacked their clothes or whatever, and said, "I don't want anything to do with them," and walked away. And she has a relationship with her mom now, kind of, sort of. I mean, her mom came back into their life. But because of her alcoholism, that's what she chose over. She chose alcohol over her own children. And that's something that my sister-in-law has had to deal with major issues for the rest of her life because in 7th grade, her mom dropped her off on her dad's porch and said, I don't want anything to do with you guys. So, alcohol has a huge thing. Okay, video games. Pedro, you know somebody who's addicted to video games? Okay, so here's my little story. You guys hear lots of stories about my ex-husband, but here's another one. I know, and the more stories I tell you, the more you probably think I'm stupid that I ever even got into the situation. But anyway, I was 19. So, anyway.